Never Again by Jim Hartley.
When I entered high school, my dad came to me with a deal. Stay out of trouble, keep your grades up, and I'll pay for flying lessons. Working evenings and weekends as a line boy at the FBO where my dad was service manager, I had little time to find trouble. I liked school, so grades were no problem. Meeting my part of the agreement with my dad was easy. I started lessons a couple months before my 16th birthday. Having grown up at the airport, I had ridden in every airplane in which I could beg a ride, frequently handling the controls on flights with pilots who were family friends. Joe, the company's chief pilot, was my instructor. Folding his lanky frame into the right seat of a Cessna 150, he would tell me what to do, show me what to do, and then expect me to do it. And then there was his cigarette holder. 50 years later, I can still see it, black ebonite with gold trim holding an unlit Pall Mall. If things were going well, the cigarette holder would lazily loll up and down at the motions of the Cessna. If things were going badly, the cigarette holder, clenched in his teeth, would stick straight up as if at attention. My lessons went well. The cigarette holder remained at ease for the most part. I decided it would be very cool to solo on my approaching birthday, the first day the FAA regulations allowed. I scheduled a lesson for my birthday and let it be known around the hangar that I hoped to make my first solo during the lesson. I knew that Joe had heard about my plan. He didn't kill it, so I figured it was a go. My birthday was a beautiful blue sky spring day with a light wind right down the runway. My plan was coming together perfectly. Joe and I walked across the ramp to 58 Juliet. The airplane was ready, I was ready, a gaggle of mechanics from Dad's shop, my dad and his boss were all gathered in front of the hangar. I cranked Continental and got taxi instructions from the tower. I did my run-up at the end of the runway, checked for free and correct, and received clearance. Joe asked for 3 touch and goes. Great. He always did that with a student about to solo. My confidence was rising. The first landing was a bit firm, but right on the numbers. The second was just past the numbers, but so soft. The third landing was perfect. The little Cessna kissing the middle of the numbers as the tires rumbled up to speed. Touchdown otherwise barely detectable. Joe pointed to the hangar. I taxied up and swung the Cessna around smartly, right in front of Dad and the whole group. So perfect. The Continental ticked over. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see Joe, jaw clenched, the cigarette holder pointing straight up. He drew a finger across his throat, shut it down. I was stricken. This is not how it was supposed to go. He is supposed to say, do 3, don't do nothing stupid, and meet in my office after. He should get out and I should taxi away, glorious in triumph. He growled, sit here until you figure out why you're not going to solo today. He unfolded himself out of the airplane, walked over to my dad, shook his head, and said a few words. I watched Dad, tight-lipped, turn and disappear into the hangar, along with the rest of my audience. I was stunned. Joe had lost his mind. How could such an outstanding student as myself be denied a first solo for no reason? My radio work was flawless, the run-up was perfect, takeoffs were textbook, the 3 landings were in my opinion well above average, the weather remained ideal. Joe opened the left door, reached in and flicked on the master. That ought to help. Fuel! Both gauges registered empty. I hadn't checked fuel. We had flown the lesson with just enough fuel to do 3 landings. I had taken the airplane from the ready line, certain that it was ready to fly. One of our duties as line boys was to make sure that every airplane on the ready line was ready for the next customer. Full fuel, oil checked, clean windshield, clean interior, and a charged battery. Always, without fail. I had taken off without any thought of fuel, nor had I even glanced at the fuel gauges. After all, the airplane was on the ready line, and all airplanes on the ready line were ready. Always. I caught up with Joe. I can feel it in 5 minutes. Joe, with a tired expression, replied, not today. I slunk into our house hours later. Dad was at the dinner table with Mom. I said nothing. They said nothing. Had either of them spoken, I surely would have burst into tears. I went into my bedroom. A slice of birthday cake my mother had silently brought me was still on my desk the next morning. The next several days were crummy with murky skies and gusty winds. At last came a calm, gray day with enough visibility and ceiling to fly. Joe and I made 3 landings and returned to the ramp. He climbed out and said, do 3, don't do nothing stupid. 3 landings were adequately performed without an audience. I found Joe in his office. He handed me my logbook with his solo endorsement already inscribed. Not a word about the fuel debacle. I went home and found Dad and Mom again at the kitchen table. Dad looked at me. Go okay? I replied, yup. Not another word was said. Joe's lessons has stuck with me. In the 50 years since my first solo attempt, I have guarded against thinking I'm a big deal around airplanes. I'm just another pilot who knows a little bit about how airplanes work, and I'm a pilot that always sticks a finger in the fuel tanks during pre-flight to make certain that fuel that I know is there is in fact there.